Sagittarius, if you're watching this right now, it's not a coincidence. Something in you has been feeling it softly, quietly, but undeniably. Like a shift in the wind. Like a door creaking open in the distance. Not loud, but clear enough that your soul turned its head and whispered, "Pay attention." This isn't just another video telling you what you want to hear. This is a message you were meant to hear. Because what's coming for you in 2026 isn't simply a change. It's a sequence of sacred shifts, subtle, divine, and personal, that God is already preparing behind the scenes of your life. But here's the truth no one else dares to say. You've already started feeling it. The strange fatigue that won't go away. The sudden urge to disconnect from people who once felt familiar. The quiet knowing that something about you is changing and you can't go back. You haven't lost your fire. You've simply outgrown the version of life that once required you to shrink. And in 2026, something begins to unfold. Not as a dramatic event, not as a miracle overnight, but as 13 sacred turning points that begin shaping your path from the inside out. I've studied Sagittarius for over 15 years. I've read the charts, walked alongside these transits, and felt this coming. And I'll tell you something as clearly as I can. You are not imagining this shift. God is quietly rearranging your life to prepare you for the version of yourself that's been waiting to emerge. So stay. Listen. Not just with your ears, but with that part of you that has always known. You were destined to live a life that feels real free and spiritually aligned, because everything you've survived up until now, it wasn't for nothing. It was the preparation for exactly what's beginning now. Let's begin with the first sacred shift. Comment if this speaks directly to the feeling you've been carrying lately. Sacred shift 1. The fire returns, but it burns differently now. There was a time not too long ago when you felt exhausted for no reason. Not physically, but something deeper, like a quiet ache in your spirit. And you couldn't explain it to anyone. People saw your strength, your laughter, your freedom-loving nature, but they didn't see the fire dimming inside. Because Sagittarius never begs the world to notice their pain. You carried it in silence, thinking maybe it was just part of life. But what if I told you that pain wasn't a flaw in your path? It was a signal that your internal fire was shifting, refining itself. In 2026, this is the first shift. Your fire comes back, but it doesn't blaze recklessly. It doesn't burn just to prove you're alive. This time it burns with direction. You no longer crave adrenaline. You crave alignment. You begin to ask yourself, what am I truly passionate about when no one's watching? What would I still fight for, even if no one else understands it? And the answers. They don't come from ambition. They rise like steam from long suppressed dreams. Dreams you buried beneath responsibility, disappointment, survival. The old version of you fought to be seen, but this version of you chooses to be real. And when that shift happens, people around you feel it. Some pull away uncomfortable with your new intensity, but others, they step closer drawn to the calm strength of someone who no longer chases validation. You've stopped trying to prove you're on fire, because you are the flame. And this time, you're burning from within. Comment if this resonates with you. Have you felt your inner fire returning in a quieter, deeper way? Life lesson. When your passion stops seeking applause and starts seeking peace, that's when it becomes sacred. The deepest fire is not the one that screams the loudest. It's the one that lights your path, even when no one is watching. Sacred shift 2. The quiet collapse of what no longer serves you. Not everything in your life will end with a bang. Some endings arrive like silence at the end of a song. You don't even realize it at first, until one day something you used to force just doesn't work anymore. In 2026, Sagittarius begins to feel a subtle yet powerful shift, the quiet collapse of what no longer serves you. You don't need an argument to walk away. You don't need a betrayal to step back. You simply feel it, a soft detachment, a knowing in your bones that certain people, places, or patterns no longer belong. This is not weakness. This is evolution, because there was a time when you tried to hold everything together. You convinced yourself that being loyal meant staying even when your soul was slowly unraveling. You mistook endurance for love. You confused sacrifice with purpose. But now you're no longer willing to bleed just to keep something alive. You begin to notice the weight of things you were never meant to carry. Conversations that leave you feeling hollow. Connections that once thrilled you now feel forced. Cycles that used to define you begin to feel like cages. And the most surprising part, you're not angry, you're not bitter, you're just done. This is what growth feels like when it's quiet. It's the sacred shift of letting things fall apart with grace. Some doors don't slam, they close like a whisper. You stop explaining yourself. You stop overthinking your exit. You leave the room not because you hate what's inside, but because you've finally outgrown the walls. Comment if this shift has been showing up in your life too. Life lesson. True freedom doesn't always come from fighting your way out. Sometimes it arrives the moment you stop trying to fix what keeps breaking you. Releasing what no longer fits is not abandonment. It's self-respect in motion. Sacred Shift 3. The end of guilt for choosing yourself. For much of your life, Sagittarius, you've given without pause. You've poured yourself into people, projects, promises, sometimes without ever checking if there was anything left inside you. You didn't do it for attention. You did it because it felt right. Because your heart is wired for meaning. Because you believed that love meant giving, that loyalty meant staying, that strength meant sacrificing. But somewhere along the road, something shifted. You began to feel the consequences of always choosing others first. Your energy, your joy, your clarity drained. And then, a moment arrived. Not dramatic, not loud, but a moment of stillness when you asked yourself, what would happen if I chose me? In 2026, the third sacred shift reveals itself. You no longer feel guilty for choosing yourself, not because you've become selfish, but because you've learned that self-neglect isn't love. You now understand that boundaries aren't walls, they're bridges to balance. You begin saying no, not with anger, but with peace. You walk away not to punish, but to protect. You rest not out of laziness, but as an act of trust. And slowly you begin to feel something rare, the return of your own energy. Not borrowed, not stolen, not scattered yours. For the first time in a long time, you're no longer trying to prove that you're worthy by how much you endure. You're worthy simply because you exist. And when you choose yourself without guilt, something powerful happens. The right people stay, the wrong ones fade. And you, Sagittarius, you begin to rise from a place that no longer feels empty. Comment if you felt this shift too. Choosing yourself without apology. Life lesson. Guilt is not proof of goodness. Real love never requires you to abandon yourself to receive it. The moment you stop apologizing for protecting your peace, you begin living from your true center. Sacred Shift 4. The unlearning of old survival patterns. Sagittarius, you're known for your strength. But what few people see is how much of that strength was shaped by survival. You learned early how to adapt, how to smile when hurting, how to stay calm in chaos, how to be the one others lean on even when no one was holding you. You became the master of pretending everything was fine. And for a long time it worked. But surviving is not the same as living. In 2026, one of the most sacred and subtle shifts begins. You start unlearning the patterns that once kept you safe, but now keep you small. The hyper-independence, the constant emotional self-checking, the reflex to laugh off what hurt, the silence when something needed to be said. You start to realize that many of your responses weren't your true self. They were your defense system. They helped you get through, but now they are no longer needed. You begin catching yourself mid-pattern, pulling away when you want to reach out, joking when you actually want to cry, saying I'm fine when your soul is screaming for rest. And in that moment of awareness, you pause, not to shame yourself, but to choose differently. You begin to allow softness, to feel deeply, to ask for help not as weakness, but as truth. The old survival instincts begin to quiet, not because you've become fragile, but because you've become safe within yourself. Comment if you've noticed these survival habits showing up and you're ready to let them go. Life lesson. Survival teaches you how to hide. Healing teaches you how to return. When you stop reacting from the past, you finally begin to respond from who you are now. And that, Sagittarius, is the beginning of real freedom. Sacred shift. 5. The return of purpose, but not as you knew it. There was a time when purpose felt like a finish line. You chased it with fire in your veins, thinking once you found it, everything would make sense. Maybe you attached it to a title, a relationship, a dream that at the time felt like your entire identity. But Sagittarius, the truth you now begin to feel is this: purpose doesn't always arrive with clarity. Sometimes it returns through quiet redirection. In 2026, you begin to feel a shift, not the arrival of a new mission, but the quiet crumbling of the old one. And at first, that may feel like confusion. You may wonder, why don't I want what I used to want? Why does that goal no longer light me up the way it once did? But beneath that uncertainty is alignment being reborn. Purpose is no longer about proving. It's not about becoming extraordinary. It's about becoming honest. You begin to follow what feels real, not what looks impressive. Maybe it's creating in a way that heals instead of sells. Maybe it's teaching something you lived through. Maybe it's showing up fully for your life, not just your ambitions. The Sagittarius spirit has always craved meaning, but now you want it to be rooted, not just high above, but grounded. And in that shift, you realize you're not losing direction. You're finally finding the one that's yours. Comment if this change in purpose has been unfolding for you too. Life lesson. True purpose doesn't scream. It whispers. It isn't found in the noise of achievement, but in the stillness of self-trust. When you stop chasing what impresses others, you begin creating what fulfills you, and that, Sagittarius, is the path your soul came here to walk. Sacred shift. 6. The deepening of faith in what you can't yet see. Sagittarius, you are ruled by Jupiter, planet of belief, vision, and higher truth. But even you have known the ache of waiting, the space between decisions and outcomes, the heavy silence between letting go and something new arriving. You are the seeker, but there are moments in your life when even seeking doesn't work, because what's ahead is not visible, and what's behind can no longer hold you. This is the sacred space of unseen faith. And in 2026, it begins to deepen. Not a blind faith, not wishful thinking, but a grounded spiritual confidence that life is still working in your favor, even when it looks like nothing is happening. You start to notice the subtler rhythms, You feel that certain delays are not blocks, but redirections. You sense that unanswered prayers are actually hidden protections. And this changes everything. You begin to wait differently. You no longer fill the silence with doubt. You begin to breathe inside it, trusting that what's coming is preparing for you just as much as you are preparing for it. There is power in this quiet trust. You stop forcing signs to appear. You stop demanding clarity on a timeline. Instead, you move with a calm that others don't understand, because you know something they don't. Not all proof arrives before the leap. Comment if you felt this quiet trust forming inside you. Life lesson. Faith is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward without needing guarantees. When you trust what you cannot see, you give life permission to exceed what you thought was possible. And that's exactly what 2026 is preparing for you. Sacred shift. 7. The rewriting of worth without performance. Sagittarius, you've always been the adventurer, the risk taker, the one who keeps going when others stop. But beneath your movement, there has often been a silent equation running in the background. If I do more, I'll be more. Somewhere along the way, you began tying your worth to your output, to how much you gave, how much you helped, how much you achieved. Even when you weren't aware of it, you were performing for approval you didn't know you needed. You weren't chasing attention. You were chasing reassurance that your existence mattered, that you were enough. But in 2026, a new shift begins to rise in you. Not a louder ambition, but a quieter truth. You no longer need to perform to be worthy. You begin to understand that rest is not laziness. That saying no doesn't make you selfish. That your softness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You start allowing yourself to be seen as you are. Not polished, not perfect, just present. And something beautiful happens. You stop trying to earn space in other people's lives. You stop shrinking yourself to be more palatable. Instead, you begin to expand slowly but surely, not for validation, but for yourself. And the people who truly see you, they stay. Not for what you do, but for who you are when you're not doing anything at all. Comment if this shift is helping you release the need to prove yourself. Life lesson. You don't need to earn what's meant for you. The more you return to your unperformed self, the more you attract what's real. True worth is not something you build through effort. It's something you remember by coming home to yourself. Sacred shift. 8. The soft exit from relationships that no longer reflect you. Some goodbyes are loud, full of words, emotions, explanations. But Sagittarius, the ones you'll face in 2026, arrive like whispers. No fights, no drama. Just a quiet knowing in your heart that says, this is no longer mine to hold. This is the 8th sacred shift. You begin to softly release the relationships that no longer reflect your truth. And it's not because you've stopped loving, it's because you've started evolving. You begin noticing the subtle misalignments, conversations that drain instead of uplift, familiar connections that now feel strangely unfamiliar, people who only seem to know the old version of you. There's no resentment, only clarity, because growth. Sagittarius doesn't always mean climbing higher. Sometimes it means standing still long enough to realize who can no longer meet you where you've arrived. And here's what surprises you most. You don't miss what you let go, not in the way you used to, because you're not leaving out of anger. You're leaving out of truth. A truth that says if I stay, I will have to shrink. If I leave, I give myself permission to breathe. So you start to exit quietly. You stop over-explaining. You stop forcing closeness with people who don't see your present self. You don't need to burn bridges. You simply stop crossing them. Comment if this shift is already happening in your world. Life lesson. Not every ending is a failure. Sometimes it's a return to authenticity. The deeper you grow into your true self, the more your life rearranges around that truth. Letting go isn't loss, it's alignment. Sacred shift. 9. The emergence of emotional honesty with yourself. Sagittarius. You've always been able to articulate ideas, beliefs, and philosophies. But when it comes to your deepest feelings, especially the ones that confuse or overwhelm you often take the long road around them. You joke. You rationalize. You distract. Not to deceive others, but to protect yourself from the depth you were never taught how to hold. But in 2026, something begins to change. This is the 9th sacred shift. You start telling yourself the truth. Not the version that makes you look strong. Not the narrative that helps you stay in control. But the raw, uncomfortable, liberating truth of how you actually feel. You begin to admit things like, I'm still angry. I'm actually afraid. I've been pretending to be okay and I'm not. I don't know what I need yet, but I know this isn't it. And in that honesty, your world begins to realign. Because Sagittarius, you don't need to have all the answers. You just need to stop lying to yourself to feel safe. There is power in sitting with your real emotions, not fixing them, not escaping them, just allowing them to be seen. It is in this space that true healing begins. And ironically, when you stop pretending you're fine, you finally start to feel whole. The mask drops, the pressure lifts, and your inner world becomes a place of trust, not judgment. Comment if you're beginning to feel this shift where honesty is replacing performance. Life lesson. You can't heal what you refuse to feel. Emotional honesty is not weakness, it's sacred clarity. When you tell yourself the truth, you begin living a life that actually fits who you are becoming, not the image you used to maintain. Sacred shift. 10. The transformation of how you relate to time. Sagittarius. You've always been drawn toward the horizon, the next chapter, the next answer, the next version of you waiting just around the bend. But this constant forward motion, as beautiful as it is, has often left you feeling disconnected from the now. You've lived in someday. Someday I'll be ready. Someday it will make sense. Someday the timing will be right. But in 2026, something begins to shift. You stop racing toward later, and you start listening to the rhythm of now. This is the 10th sacred shift. You begin to trust the divine timing of your life without trying to control it. And with that, your relationship to time transforms. You no longer see waiting as punishment. You see it as preparation. You begin to understand that not every season is for building. Some are for restoring. Some are for shedding. Some are for watching seeds grow that were planted long ago. You no longer measure progress by speed. You begin measuring by alignment. You start asking, is this right for me right now? Not, can I make it happen faster? And that question alone opens new doors. You no longer rush to prove. You move with purpose. You don't panic when things are slow. Because deep down, you now know nothing real is ever lost by being delayed. Comment if you felt this slowing down inside you, this new trust in time. Life lesson. Time isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. When you move in rhythm with your soul, not society's expectations, you begin to experience peace, not pressure. The life meant for you doesn't need to be chased. It will meet you when you're truly ready. Sacred shift. 11. The awakening of forgotten passions. Sagittarius. You've always been a visionary, an explorer of meaning, expression, and truth. But along the way, in the mess of responsibility, survival, and heartbreak, you buried certain dreams. Not because you stopped caring, but because life made you feel like they were no longer realistic. Too impractical, too risky, too young. So you set them down. The art, the stories, the wild ideas, the way you used to light up at the thought of creating something just because it mattered to you. But in 2026, something stirs. At first, it's subtle. You remember an old melody. You feel a tug to open that journal again. You daydream in ways you haven't for years. And you wonder, what if I'm not too late? This is the 11th sacred shift. Your forgotten passions begin to wake up, not to pull you into fantasy, but to invite you back to who you were before you became so practical. This time your passion isn't naive, it's refined. It carries the wisdom of everything you've lived through. You don't need to start from scratch, you just need to start from truth. And here's the magic. When you follow what genuinely excites you without needing permission, life begins to respond in ways you never imagined. Not everything will turn into a career. Not everything will be understood by others. But it doesn't have to be. It just has to feel real. Comment if something creative, passionate, or wild has been calling you back lately. Life lesson. Your passions are not childish. They are maps. They point toward the parts of you that are still alive, still full of wonder, still unbroken. When you stop burying what lights you up, you stop betraying your own soul, and that's where the next chapter begins. Sacred Shift 12. The alignment of your external life with your inner truth. You've changed, Sagittarius. Not in loud, dramatic ways, but in the quiet, patient spaces where no one was watching. Your thoughts have shifted. Your values have deepened. Your energy has become more refined. But for a while, your outer life didn't yet match your inner evolution. You still lived in spaces that didn't reflect your spirit. Still wore labels that no longer fit. Still said yes to things that made your soul whisper no. And yet you endured. You told yourself it's not the right time. I can make it work. I don't want to disappoint anyone. But in 2026, something starts to feel undeniable. This is the 12th sacred shift. Your inner and outer lives begin to demand alignment. You no longer tolerate environments that drain you. You no longer pretend in relationships where you feel unseen. You stop agreeing to versions of yourself that keep you small just to keep others comfortable. And as scary as it is, you begin to make changes. Not impulsively, not recklessly, but with steady clarity. You rework your routines. You shift how you spend your time. You update the boundaries others are allowed to cross. You don't need a perfect plan. You only need to honor the truth that's been growing inside you. And as you do, life begins to reconfigure around your authenticity. You stop hiding your evolution. You start living it out loud. Comment if you're in the process of bringing your outer world into harmony with your inner growth. Life lesson. Peace is expensive, but not in dollars. It costs you the version of life that no longer fits who you are becoming. When your external world aligns with your inner truth, you no longer have to split yourself in two, and that's when real freedom begins. Sacred Shift 13. The return to a life that feels like home. You've wandered far, Sagittarius. Across ideas, cities, relationships, identities, seeking something that could finally feel like home. But for so long, nothing quite did. Some places felt temporary. Some people felt too conditional. Even the roles you played, strong, free, resilient, still left a quiet ache behind your smile. Because the truth is, you weren't just looking for a destination. You were looking for yourself. And in 2026, something sacred happens slowly, softly, and fully earned. This is the 13th shift. You begin to return to a life that finally feels like home. Not because everything outside is perfect. Not because you found all the answers. But because for the first time in a long time, you're no longer abandoning yourself to feel safe. You no longer chase people who misunderstand your depth. You no longer force yourself into spaces that dull your light. You no longer apologize for your fire, your questions, your vision. Instead, you choose truth over approval, peace over performance, presence over perfection. And as you do, life begins to feel familiar again. Not because it looks like your past, but because it finally honors the soul you've always carried. The Sagittarius spirit has always been a traveler, but this time you're not escaping. You're arriving. You sit in silence and feel whole. You walk into your own space and feel safe. You speak with someone who sees you and feel home. Not a place, not a person, but a state of being you built inside yourself. Comment if you've started feeling this quiet return, this sense that you're finally coming home to who you are. Life lesson. Home is not a location, it's a frequency. And when you stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of others, you begin creating a life that feels like truth, not just survival. That's not the end of the journey. That's the beginning of everything that was always meant for you. Conclusion. You're not becoming someone new. You're finally returning to who you were meant to be, Sagittarius. If you're still here listening to these words, then something inside you already knows. This was never about changing who you are. It was about remembering every sacred shift in 2026. The release, the awakening, the quiet courage to choose yourself was not to create a new version of you. It was to bring you home to a version that's been waiting beneath the surface all along. The world taught you to be louder, tougher, faster. But your soul, it was asking you to be truer. And now you've reached a threshold, not a finish line, not a grand victory, but a steady beginning. You've set down the burdens that weren't yours to carry. You've stopped running from the silence. You've started trusting the wisdom in your own rhythm. And perhaps for the first time in your life, you feel ready to live without abandoning yourself. There will still be waves. There will still be days where old patterns whisper to you. But now you have something you didn't before: awareness, alignment, and trust. Trust in your timing. Trust in your voice. Trust that the life meant for you will rise to meet you, not through force, but through faith. You are no longer performing. You are no longer waiting for permission. You are living, present, awake, whole. And from this space, the future begins to feel less like a question and more like a quiet promise you're finally ready to receive. Comment if this journey has felt like your own. Which shift spoke to you the loudest? Let's talk below. Because you're not walking alone anymore. Not through endurance, but through awakening. Not through striving, but through truth. And that, Sagittarius, is the beginning of a life that was always yours. If this spoke to your spirit, don't let this be the last time we connect. Subscribe to the Sagittarius Flame and stay with this journey, because the shifts are only just beginning. There are messages waiting for you in every chapter ahead. Not loud, not forced, but true. And if you ever feel lost again, come back here. This space will always be open to remind you of who you are.